I mean, to me, Here Lies Love is really a celebration of like Filipino culture and Filipino history, right? So we're telling this very specific part of Philippine history when the Marcoses rose to power, and then the People Power Revolution, yes, right, was a reaction to that dictatorship. This musical is like a container for telling this really specific part of Philippine history. Who would have thought you would put David Byrne, Fatboy Slim, and the Philippine Power Revolution in the same sentence, but that's what they've done.
So David Corrins, who is the set designer and who has worked on phenomenal other Broadway shows like Hamilton, is really doing something groundbreaking that has never been seen on Broadway before.
It's really, truly revolutionary. It's an act of defiance,
yes,
in its joy, in its refusal to conform to a traditional space. Pulling all the seats out of a theater, taking the entire orchestra out, those are considered prime seats. We just pulled them all out and put a dance floor right where they used to be. These are all really bold, innovative things, and Broadway needs innovation.
At the Broadway Theater, which coincidentally was where Lea Salonga did her Broadway debut 3 decades ago, she returns to the same theater, but in a completely different way.
Our industry used to be push.
Right.
We made shows and we pushed them out there and we expected people to come and consume them.
Right.
And that just isn't what's happening anymore. And so Here Lies Love, as a show, has the ability to save Broadway.
For us, my interest is Filipinos for far too long have been marginalized in so many spaces, including Broadway. And so this is a really historic time for Filipino representation on Broadway, which is the biggest stage in the world.
Thank you so much for making time for us, and thank you so much for reaching out. This is the first interview for Here Lies Love. How excited are you?
Beyond excited, Jannelle, and of course when an opportunity to share anything Filipino came up, you were the first person I wanted to speak to.
Thank you so much. G, tell us about your involvement in Here Lies Love.
I grew up in the theater, and so when the call came from Jose Antonio Vargas about this historic show going to Broadway, I fell off my seat, honestly, because this means not just for the people that are working on the show, but for the community at large, a milestone for representation. And so when they asked if I would be part of the show to help really represent the community at these decision-making level, absolutely.
No-brainer.
I have to be part of this in any way, shape, or form.
Right. So what are those steps in order to hook the community in to support Here Lies Love?
I have been having several conversations with organizations all around the nation, even in the Philippines, about what this means for the community. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to be in the room to represent community interest has been really an empowering experience for me.
What specific experience, like unique experiences, are you bringing into this?
Well, I was 7 years old when People Power Revolution happened. My mother dragged me to Malacanang. I was in the streets. I wore a yellow t-shirt. Like, I am part of that revolution. And then coming here to America and really sort of using my influence to advocate for Filipino-American artists just seems like this is the pinnacle of sort of everything I've worked towards for. So I just feel so fortunate to have had all of that experience and really bring this to the biggest stage in the world. As we come out of the pandemic, people are really looking for an opportunity to connect and to be part of an experiential event, right? This show is not just a show.
So you're not just going to be sitting down and watching. It's going to be an experience.
Yes, but for people that also want to, see the show in that traditional fashion, there is an opportunity for that.
This is more than just a musical and more than a piece of theater. We're actually thinking of it more of an event. It's a theatrical event.
It's a party,
it's
right?
A party.
And what Filipino doesn't love a party?
Well,
right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Broadway is ever going to be the same again.
Right. How are you then connecting now to the non-Filipinos? You may want them to come too, right?
Everybody's invited. Just because white Americans are deeply unaccustomed to and uncomfortable being decentered in entertainment or in any narrative. It's like, that doesn't mean you're not included.
Right.
It just means you're not in the middle.
Yes.
It just means you're not in the middle.
Right.
Come anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you know, have some fun, learn something, you know, sit on the side for a change and, you know, watch people whose story this is.
To me, this show is a mark that we're welcome here
Mm-hmm.
and that you cannot really have Broadway without Filipino representation in it.
Oh, but it's not even written by Filipinos. What do you say to that?
What I say to that is, to us, to all the Filipinos involved with this show, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes when the cast is announced, this is a Filipino story. We take ownership of the show. And we're gonna make sure that the moment you enter the Broadway theater, I actually think this thing is gonna be so Filipino, you're gonna smell patis all over Times Square.
Now let's talk about the cast. What can you tell us about the cast?
Well, everyone is asking that
Right.
question, right? We have Conrad Ricamora, who, oh my gosh, I can't not say his name without gushing. He's just so charming and handsome. And of course, this Broadway legend, Jose Liana, is going to play Marcos, right? Imelda, we are announcing soon. So you will see a caliber that will leave your mouth open as you experience this. And truly, Filipino pride. No Filipino is going to go to this show and not swell with pride, seeing us represented on the biggest stage of the world.
It is attracting interest because it's Filipino pride, but at the same time, it's kind of like a shameful part in our Philippine history that's continuing on now as revisionism is happening.
Absolutely. I think theater is a really powerful medium to really think about all of these things that we don't have the capacity to wrap our heads around. And this is going to be a real opportunity for people to, one, get to know that history that you don't read about.
Right.
And two, it will create space for us to reflect on where we are now currently in the age of disinformation. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity, regardless if you're for or against this administration. Theater brings us together.
They're already setting the stage and they're working so hard to make it, you know, worth our time. We just need to show up.
The people power revolution, the way that Filipino people showed up, right? They showed up for themselves, they showed up for their country, they showed up for their freedom, they show up for their community, and they show up with an intense amount of Filipino pride.
At ang gusto natin, ipakita sa lahat na nandito tayo, may kaya tayo, at storya natin to, atin ito.
Come to the Broadway Theater and please see the show. Spread the word. Code SAYAW, which is, you know, means dance. So that's the code. You can use that code to make sure that you feel special as we are.
Very, very pleased to be any part of telling this story, but it's yours and it's here for you. And we'll see you this summer in New York.